Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, we should start the afternoon session, and starting it, first of all, according to the program, there are two chairing persons. Myself, my name is Juras Banys, and I am acting rector of university, and I would say that the oldest and the only one university in Lithuania. Of course, some colleagues may disagree, but we know that in Kaunas there is another health university, but it's the size of our Faculty of Medicine. And Romeris University do not have nature sciences and biomedical sciences. So only one comprehensive university in Lithuania is Vilnius University. And this conference is also related to the Lithuania presidency of European Union. And to participants, I would say that the opening ceremony of presidency in Lithuania took place in the main court of Vilnius University, which was established in 1579. So now we have 434 years of history. So that's very brief introduction. More about me, if you want, you can read in the program. And with that, I give the floor to my co-chair. Please.
Fabio Pammolli. I'm working on the economic analysis of health and pharmaceutical systems. And actually, I served as director of the youngest Italian university for 5 years, because we set up a new institute for advanced studies in our country. So there is this nice contrast. Before starting with the presentations will basically, I'm trying to summarize it in a very, will basically deal with the relationship between healthcare as an investment, growth at the micro level of companies and jobs, and growth at the macro level of countries. And then finally, one reflection about the consequences of different funding schemes at a very macro level on growth on the one side and sustainability on another side. But before starting the session, I will ask Jose Figueras, who led the morning, to introduce.
Yes, I'm sorry. Don't worry. I'm not going to gate crash or party crash this session. You got enough from me.
He took it over.
Yes, I'm the new chair now, right? No.
Coup d'etat.
Seriously, we took the liberty to litter your chairs because we believe it's a public good. It's a public good that we believe will adds definitely to the evidence that we've been talking about, the need for evidence and comparative evidence and research on the subject of today. There are two initiatives. One is called the Health Systems and Policy Monitor, that gathers 17 countries in the European Union, as well a couple on the OECD. And today we're welcoming Lithuania in this initiative. Basically is the health profiles. We're going to be launching it tonight, the health systems profile for Lithuania, and where we have them is on the web, and continuing this monitoring and updating. So if you want to follow any of these countries, you can be informed through Twitters, emails, and so on, and there are continuous updating of reform changes, reforms updates, and so on, in a way that's searchable, comparable, and so on. So you don't have any excuse to say you don't know what's going on in the health systems of our member states. You have not any excuse to say that our publications are old, because this publication has been updated thanks to these 35 national elite institutions that are monitoring the health system. And then a second initiative, which is called the Health and Financial Crisis Monitor. We managed to launch it before the crisis is over, and unfortunately it may still be useful for quite a while, which is basically collecting all the data, evidence, papers, and publications around the impact of the crisis and the responses, health systems' responses to the crisis. So again, it's a database there, you can search, you can be informed, there's a Twitter about what's happening, how member states respond to the financial crisis, what kinds of interventions, and so on. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will have 3 presentations of 20 minutes each, and then if we are good enough, we'll have room for a question and answer session. I ask Professor Henke to start.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will use my 20 minutes to talk about a double dividend situation that we are facing in the health economy. You will see it in a second. But before I start, I have to tell you something. I'm an economist by training, and this morning was a very nice conference and very nice, interesting discussion. But may I be quite frankly, being an economist by training, the word competition never turned up. The word Bismarckian system versus pay-as-you-go systems never turned up. And so I have the impression that we can continue this discussion today and tomorrow, not whilst I'm talking now these 20 minutes, but this came to my mind that when you are talking about the financing of the system, it makes a difference whether you finance it through general revenue and taxation in beverage systems or through payroll taxes in Bismarckian system, although I know that there's a convergence going on, and Reinhard just told me that this convergence will be the future for our grandchildren. This is a short start. The second starting point is that I am trying to keep you awake, because after lunch it's always a little difficult. And you will see that I'm talking today about a double dividend on the health economy. And this is something that is combined with the word satellite account. And some of you might have heard that we do these calculations with the Federal Statistical Office in Germany, and that we are trying to find out the repercussions, the economic effects of the health economy on value added and on employment, export, and so on. And this was the major part of what I'm going to tell you. But before I start with this second part, the economic dividend in the health economy, I have empirical data and I will transfer them to you. And I have a certain mission in this context that probably more than just Germany and Austria and Swiss should collect these data. But before I start with this economic dividend and with the health dividend, before I start with the economic footprint of the health economy, you are a member of this health economy, all of you, I would like to start with a new understanding of health, because this is my philosophical background, my ideological background, and I think we are very close to each other when you see what I have here in this slide. You see here the old understanding, the new understanding, and today I have a very narrow topic. I would all put you in a narrow sense to the health economy. You are an industrial sector, you are an economic sector, and I'm talking about the health economy as a part of healthcare. And I'm trying to show you the economic footprint, as some colleagues call it now, and with all the figures that you will see in a moment. Then we didn't discuss this morning the second healthcare market. This is growing, and I show you the figure a little later. It's 2.5% of GNP, and it is growing double-digitally as far as the numbers of our Federal Statistical Office are correct. And this is something we should see and should induce probably in the financing process as well. Then I'm in favor, as you probably are, on quality and outcome orientation. I think quality and outcome should be the major parameter of health policy, of economic policy. So these should be the major parameter of competition in the area we are all working in, quality and outcome. And then I don't see the health sector as a cost factor. I see the growing sectors you are working in, and you can show for some countries that over the last 20 years the most new professions were founded in the healthcare area, not somewhere else, but in the center where you are working. So there are many new career opportunities, increasing workforces, growing sectors. This is what I'm interested in, not so much that this is a cost factor. This is something we should not talk about. And then what I do not like is consumption. I think investment is much better. And we heard this morning that the capital, the human capital, consists not only of health but of education as well. And when you put both together, education and health, then you have the human capital. And not only an economist would say that this is a major driver of the productivity and the growth of the sector we are talking about. So this is probably something that you will agree on. And then here, people from public health, they all are preaching, and I do the same thing. Health is everywhere, in all areas of life, lifelong. and we should not have this fragmentation. But this fragmentation was something I heard this morning. Some of you talked about the health sector. Others talked about the health system. Some about the health care and cure. Some about public health, the health society. There are so many words going on. I'm very close and narrow today. I'm talking only about the health economy, and I'm trying to use this workshop together with you to explain how we did this work together with many colleagues and with the Federal Statistical Office and together with the Ministry of Economics and Technology. So the influence right now in our country does not come so much from the Ministry of Health, but it comes from the Ministry of Research and Development and from the Ministry of Economics and Technology. This is something new. And the innovation platforms that we are having, they are putting these people together. And normally there's somebody else coming from the Ministry of Finance. So this is something that I would like to add to this morning's conference. Here you see now the economic dividend, and here I tell you again what I said before. This research project was commissioned by the Ministry of Economics and Technology, and we did this together with the Technical University of Berlin and Roland Berger and two independent research institutions who are cooperating with the two universities in Darmstadt and in Augsburg and in Berlin. And what we had was the following requirement. They wanted us to calculate a satellite account. Nobody knows what a satellite account is, but it's a nice word. And so they said, why don't you calculate the gross value added, the employment figures, the export, the import, and all other economic variables that are helpful to explain the situation, the success or not success of the health economy. And these data are now available since 2005, and we are having them completed until 2012. And it's all done on the basis of the national accounting system. And this is a method that is not so much liked by everybody because it's a little technical, but this was our basis, and we did this together with the Federal Statistical Office, and we are still working with them, and it's a large group that is trying to do research here more and more so. And this is then the two sides. You can see the production side, and you can see how you import things and how you bought in services, and then you product something and then you sell it, and then you have an input and an output side, and you can see then that there is a health input-output table, and you can be very technical around it, but this is what we were asked to do, and this is what we try to do. And the next slides will show you first how we did it, and then we show you the figures globally and then technically in detail. And this is probably something I would say easy to understand. It's a four-sector model where you have the core health sector and the extended health sector under the heading of health products and services. And on the right-hand side you have compulsory and voluntary with the primary sector and the secondary market. The primary is financed out of private and statutory health insurances in Bismarckian systems. In beverage system, there we would write general revenue, mainly taxation. And the secondary market comes out of pocket. These are then personal expenditures, consumption. And when you have a look here, then this is, of course, the core of it, the reimbursable in and outpatient services. This is what everybody of us needs, all the families, and under complete coverage we should have this, and this is paid for either through the one system or through the other system. And when you stay in the core health sector, you have then the over-the-counter drugs and pharmaceutical products, and this is a lot for some pharmacies. This is 50–60% of the turnover, because you people, you're buying this stuff. Although many people say it's worthless, but you're buying them nevertheless. This is your fault. And I would say, well, this is personal consumption, and this is up to 3% of GNP. And then you have here the other extreme. Here is fitness and wellness and relaxation and food and clothing. This is something completely out of pocket. And here you have something in addition in the primary sector, where I would say, well, this is vocational training, a little research, a little bit of this and that. It is not that important. What is more important is perhaps this technical slide here, where you now see in detail how we did the calculation. Here I have the core health sector with 9 different areas: pharmaceutical products, health-related social insurance, services provided by inpatient institutions, services provided by non-inpatient institutions. You find everything in these 9 core sectors, and then you have the extended health sector with these 5 areas. And these are the areas that you find in the national accounting system. It's complicated statistically, but there are results coming out that you will see now and you will like probably. First, you can then put together the number of employees. We have about 5-6 million people working in the healthcare sector, and you can transfer them to these areas, and then you can have a sort of productivity by putting this together, gross value added per employee, and of course is the productivity in these technical areas much higher than in the areas where they are more needed, and this is something that you can show. But the major event is coming with the next slide, and this is something we have to talk about for a moment. Here you can see now that for these years between 2005 and 2012, the health economy was responsible for around 10–11% of GNP. This is more than the whole automobile sector and many other branches together. And this came into the public, into the minds of the politicians. Was very impressive. And then we have 7% export and 20% of final consumption, and 15% of total employment. That means that every 7th person is working in the area we are all working in. And then some experts say that this number will increase to 20%, and then every 5th person is working in this area of employment with all these new career opportunities. So this is the situation. Now I could continue, but I have to stop for a moment, because these figures were so nice for some reasons that then the states, we have 16 states in Germany, said, couldn't you do this calculation for us as well, for Berlin-Brandenburg, for North Rhine-Westphalia, for Bavaria? And of course, this is a lot of research money, and we enjoy doing it, because everything at the university depends on the money you get in for your services. This is a new situation. And then you have the average rate of 10–11%, and then you see that some regions are higher and some are lower. And then people start saying, well, what about the population health in these regions? And then it gets more complicated. The very moment you are talking with me about the health dividend, it's difficult. This is only the economic footprint, nothing else. But it didn't stop by the states. Other countries did the same, Austria, Switzerland, and of course I'm trying to tell you that this could be done European-wide. I don't know whether this is necessary, but it's possible. But you know what happened? Some of the big companies, Fresenius, Sanofi and others, said, can't you calculate this satellite account for us as well? And then, of course, we had a possibility to do this. And then they were interested in these effects, and there are more effects coming in a moment. Give me a little time. Now there are 3 or 4 slides coming with few figures, which are easy to understand, but a little complicated at the first moment. Here you see again what I was preaching, the 10% of GNP, 11% here. And you see over 2005 to 2012, gross value went up by around 60 billion in these years. So this is something that you can show as I do here, and you can do this again by having compound annual growth rates, and you see immediately what happened. I mean, this is nearly twice as much as the manufacturing sector, the service sector, and this again was nice information for those people like you who work in this area. And then this is the most important thing perhaps. We all know that we had a severe debt crisis in 2009. And you remember probably your own countries that the GNP went down a lot. In Germany it went down by minus 3.8%. And you know what was stable? The health economy. And this was very important. And this is something you are working in. So it's a very stable situation as far as the business cycle is concerned. But this is not the end of it. Here you can do the same thing for employment. Here you have your 13–15% employed persons, and this went up from 5,300,000, and it increased by 700,000 to 6 million, what we have right now in 2012. You must remember that all these national accounting figures, they are all ex post. You can of course extrapolate something, but this is all ex post done, and this is important. But this is not the end of it. There is again the same thing for employment effects, and you can see that annual 2% additional jobs were created, 10 times more than in the manufacturing sector. This is something, isn't it? And there's more coming. You won't believe it. When you're an economist, you know that there are multipliers, and there are many multipliers, and at least 3 I can mention, and this is in this picture here. We were talking so far only about the direct effects, and now we have indirect effects. They are bought-in services. When you produce something, you must buy something, and this of course induces value added, and you get salary for it, and you are saving the money or you spend it, and this is something you can calculate then in our procedures. So the indirect effects have a multiplier. The induced effects, as I just said, your generated income will be used for some purpose, and this is something you can include in the national accounting system. And then you have production value added employment effects, and now something new. In particular, the firms told us, couldn't you calculate the fiscal effects of these economic effects? And they wanted then perhaps to show for Merkel, this is how much profit tax we pay, or this is how much social contribution rate we pay, and now they could show how much they contribute to sustainable public finance. And this was another interesting thing that we can calculate. And here are these pictures, and I have only 20 minutes, I know. These are the pictures that you can show. This is for the induced and indirect effects. You have these 10%, and then you can say €1 increases 39 cents here and 38 cents here, and together it's 77 cents that comes in addition to what I have here. And then this is added value in the sense that I'm showing it here. But you must be careful. You can do this only for one branch. When you do this for all the branches, you have a GNP that is 3-4 times as big as the one that we are really having in mind. So be careful with these figures. I guess it's enough when you have this figure here. I guess this is enough to get across with what I'm saying here. But I have a little more, and this is the final picture in regard to the economic footprint. It's so nicely to be seen. The core health sector, the extended health sector, altogether 10% of GDP. 2.5% is here the extended health sector. You would call it probably the second healthcare market. This is 2.5, and here you see the same for employment. And this is a nice figure, and this is the end of the economic footprint. This is all. It is impressive, but you can really think that this is not the answer, because we didn't talk so far about the health dividend. And perhaps less is more, or more is better. Nobody knows. And there I need help from the session tomorrow afternoon, where we are talking about the performance and the health performance of things that we do. And here I'm going now to the health dividend. And here I would say that we come from this economic footprint, from the economic value, to a better health status of the population. And of course, when you have this better health status, I'm talking about you personally, then this is of individual value for you. It is of value for your family, for the group you are in, for your neighborhood. And it has social and economic effects again. And this is something where I have in this connection 3 hypotheses, but I do not have empirical work done so far. But there are colleagues and research institutions around me who do this job. The first one is that I define very easily here that you need a new therapy or new drug, new technical device, and that this will probably improve the population's health status. This is easy said, and you do this by reducing morbidity, invalidity, mortality. This is what an epidemiologist would say. And here you have a healthier population will improve the productivity and the efficiency of the workforce. And my 3 hypotheses come now, and here I would like to take your time and go please through it slowly, because I'm dreaming of a situation where we will have empirical data on what I'm saying here. Healthy aging is something that refers to everybody here in this room and outside, and this raises productivity and thus gives and this is important, a supply side boost to quality of life and growth. And here quality of life is more important for me, because here I'm thinking of voluntary workers, people like you and me who do some work outside the market, for the family, for political parties, for the church, for the neighborhood, for old people. This is something you do which is very important and has a huge social value. And this is what we need much more in the future, much more in the future, because otherwise I do not know how we get along with the demographic challenges. So this is on the supply side, where we have education and health as the driving forces. And then you have the same thing on the demand side, And there we have increasing private demand for non-reimbursable health-related goods and services. This is the second healthcare market. And as we saw that this is 2.5 of the GDP, I would now say that this starts financing the first part of the healthcare sector as well. Because when GDP goes up, the payroll tax base of wages and salaries is broadening. And when this is broadening, this is a good effect, because at least 3 years ago we were complaining at home that we have an erosion of the tax base because of unemployment. But now we have a surplus that we never had so far over the last 3 years. Our Central Health Fund has a surplus of 15 billion, and the 120 statutory funds that we have a surplus of another 15. That means 3 points in our social payroll tax rate. And this is something new. And I'm saying this because there's something in this relation here. A healthy society saves money on treatment, rehabilitation, nursing care. This is so easy said, and it's so important, and that the private household is your first health location. This is something I would combine with this. And then I have the impression that we could do here some empirical work, and this is what some colleagues and myself are trying to do. I have a couple of more slides, I guess 3 or 4 more, and then I'm through. And I'm summarizing now. I think I could show that healthcare is not a cost factor, but it is a macroeconomic driver, much more so than other branches in the economy. So this is of economic policy character. It has industrial elements in it, and so this is a very narrow perspective that I'm choosing in this first meeting in the afternoon. And the economic dividend of the health economy should be measured regularly on the basis of the national accounts. We are dreaming of a situation where our statistical office is putting out these data that we have developed every 2 years, every 3 years, so that we can compare it over time, and then probably with Austria and Switzerland and perhaps other countries you stem from. And the last one, or the last but one, is this picture here. It shows you that we had this research project done, and we are still working with the ministry. This lasts already over 3, 4, I guess almost 5 years, and it's not to be seen an end. It goes further and further, and other ministries see this as well and join us. And so there is the extensive data by the Federal Statistical Office, des Staates, and then you could do the same thing with the health economy in the entire European Union. And the databases, the input-output tables are available through Eurostat. And I know that OECD is working on these ideas as well. And we have to discuss this, what I'm transferring here to you, whether it's valid and whether we can use it in the future. My summary is very easy. What is the health economy after all? I would say in the national accounting system, it's a sector like many others. And this is the biggest industry in our country. And you can see that the first market, which is not a market, is defined by legally fixed prices. Here we can change a lot in trying to have more competition in this area of pricing and paying services. And then the second market, as I said before, is something that could perhaps support the first health market financially. And then the critics are very easy to transfer to you. The critics say that the macroeconomic figures of the contribution to employment and growth don't say a word about what comes out of it. And this is, of course, something we have to work on, the efficiency, the outcome. And then I would add, this is true for other industries as well. And what I'm saying is that we need, finally, this new understanding of health. We need information platforms with many, many politicians, academia, economists, and then finally, make out of health an economic policy within my narrow topic that I had this afternoon in the beginning. Thank you very much.